Welcome to this episode of the Structural Engineering Channel, a podcast focused on helping structural engineering professionals stay up to date on technical trends in the field and to help them succeed in their careers and lives. In this episode, Rachel and I will be talking about two distinct career paths within the field of structural engineering. Rachel will talk about the advantages of working for a manufacturer, while I'll be talking about the key things to look out for those in a structural engineering design firm. So we'll discuss the pros and cons, growth aspects, and opportunities offered within each career path, because there's a lot of structural engineering career paths in the structural engineering industry. I'm your co-host, Mathew Picardal.
And I'm your co-host, Rachel Holland. Now let's jump into the conversation of the week.
This video is brought to you by Menard USA. Menard USA is a specialty ground improvement contractor that works nationally, providing design-build ground improvement solutions at sites with problematic soils. Menard works closely with civil, structural, and geotechnical engineers to minimize foundation costs for wide ranges of soil conditions, structure types, and loading conditions. To learn more about Menard USA or for help on your next project, please visit www.menardusa.com.
Hey, so we're going to be talking about some different career paths between the private structural design industry, typical ones where you design buildings, but also another career path that's pretty interesting as well, the manufacturing industry. So I'll be talking about my side, and then Rachel will be talking about the manufacturing side. But as a quick intro, some background, for me, I've pretty much graduated with a structural engineering degree and then jumped into the private design industry where I design buildings. And that's something that I'm still doing every day. So I personally don't have other experiences in different industries, but there's a lot of career paths in the structural engineering industry. So that's something that we wanted to discuss in today's episode. And Rachel, can you give us some background on yours?
Yeah, definitely, Matt. So just my, short background is graduated with a degree in architectural engineering and knew that I wanted to go the manufacturing route. So in order to do that, I first, based on some advice I got from a more experienced engineer, first went into the design world, and I worked in that for about 7 years, long enough to get my PE and gain some experience, and then take that over to the manufacturing side of things. So I joined Simpson about 7 years in, and throughout my career here, I've been able to use the 7 years of experience in the design firms to help. It helps me to basically help my customers now. So a little bit different path, and I've had a few different roles within Simpson. So I've kind of experienced different engineering roles within the company. And then now we can, if you want, just jump into all the different questions. We're going to pick each other's brains.
Yeah, I had a lot of questions because I know some colleagues that are in the manufacturing industry, and there seems to be a lot of different roles for engineers, practicing engineers, even new engineers. So just as a quick background, Simpson Strong Tie, what type of company are they, and what type of things do they do?
So we are we manufacture building components. So our mission is to help people build safer, stronger structures, right? So we employ actually a lot of very different types of engineers. So obviously, like as a civil, structural, architectural background, that seems pretty obvious when you're manufacturing building components. But we also have a lot of other types of engineers that work for us. We have a lot of mechanical engineers. We have a lot of we have a materials engineer. We have chemists. It kind of I know I'm forgetting some, but we have a kind of a vast array of engineering knowledge that's all within our company. It's pretty cool.
And so you've worked both sides. So what do you think are the pros and cons of, for a typical design firm versus getting into the manufacturing side?
I don't know. I don't know if I would necessarily focus on like the pros and cons. They're very different. So, when you are in the design firm, you're working, with that team, right? So the architects, the civil people, the people within your own company to create this like project that at the end is just going to be this like, big finished project, right? Whereas I feel like when you enter the manufacturing industry, it's same end goal kind of, but like you're just looking at it from a different angle. So, if you simplify it and just look at our wood connectors as an example, like you're really, really focusing in on a tiny part of that whole project, right? So like we're really focused in on like where that beam is hanging off that other beam, whereas like you're dealing with like all of the seismic and lateral and like the whole building. We're able to kind of like focus in on it and really like master that one particular piece. I think there's also just like a different Simpson sort of opened my eyes to things that I didn't even really like know about in college or put any thought into while I was designing buildings. Like, for example, like when I was in R&D and I would work with our engineers that build dies. It's such like a 3D concept of how things get punched and at the end they're what you want them to be. Like even just that whole process, I had never put an ounce of thought into that whole process when I was a design engineer, so you see things from a different angle. You see how things are made. It's kind of it's just a different experience. But I think the other cool part about it that I didn't have to walk away from is I still get to work with architects, builders, engineers, all the people that like are on your team, like I still get to work with all of them because they're our customers. So that's really a cool part of it that I feel like I didn't have to like leave that.
Yeah. And you mentioned a lot of different aspects of it. I was always curious about Simpson Strong-Tie has all these products and they're coming out with new products all the time too. What does that process look like? And what do maybe the structural engineers in general, what place do they have in that whole process of getting, oh, here's a new idea for maybe a connector, a hanger, a new lateral system? What does that whole process look like? And where do structural engineers fit into that process?
That process. I'm like, how much time do you have?
That's what I figured.
No, it's pretty in depth again, because when you're creating something that people are going to trust and use in their homes or their buildings or whatever, it has to be safe. It has to be tested properly. It has to be load rated correctly. You have to think about all the different ways. This is another big difference. You have to think about the way that we build throughout the whole country when we're creating parts. So like, I know when I was a design engineer in California, I was very like focused on the CBC. I was designing buildings in California. I didn't really think much beyond that. And so like when we make a part, in order to make it be useful in all parts of the country, even now we're global now, but so to think about things like that, you really have to make the part meet the needs of so many different building types, building norms, like everybody sort of does things a little bit differently in different parts of the country. And, we have Canada and like, you have to convert it over to different units. Like it gets a little bit, beyond California. So the process is basically like, we try to obviously stay ahead of the needs so that when something is needed, we kind of already have a solution. But, when that doesn't happen, I mean, we have like a huge sales force of people that are out like in the field, talking to customers all the time, getting feedback, hearing what their kind of like frustrations are when they don't have a solution for something. And so that information will come back to us. And within Simpson, again, we have lots of engineers. Some of us are more customer facing, like we're the ones that are helping the people with questions in the moment. And then there's a whole other R&D section of our engineers that work on creating these new parts. So once those ideas all funnel up and get vetted, and there's some work that goes into them, we have project managers that the product managers will like vet it out, see if it's going to be like kind of a viable building component that we want to pursue. And then it like, goes through the whole R&D process. There's lots of testing, there's lots of calcs, there's lots of meetings, there's lots of everything. And then, eventually you come up with a part and you launch it, and you're going to cross your fingers. Hope it's received well. And yeah, it's a really in-depth kind of strenuous like process to get a part to the finish line. And when you do, it feels really good.
Yeah, it's I imagine, the testing that has to go into it, the concept, and not only you have to make it good for the constructors or the people building it out there, but also the engineers too, for them to easily spec it out and see what the values are, the load capacities. And I remember we were talking to some people in our in our guests. They were just going over some of the patenting and the whole process. So it was probably with different countries too. It was like, oh man, that takes a long time, and it's not just making a product, launching it. It's all this other stuff that goes into it, and it's good to know that, like as you were saying, there's different roles, a lot of roles for engineers in the sales team, sales engineers, but also the research and development part too, where you're actually testing stuff. I know some engineers are really interested in that aspect of it, and that's something that you wouldn't get in a private design firm, right? So that's right. I think that's a unique opportunity that opens up to different career paths. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. Simpson has like a lot of, I feel like that is one really cool thing. It provides a lot of opportunity, right? I think being a big company, we have some of the best testing facilities, and having access to those is, just it's amazing. And, so when you are going through these processes and you're doing all this testing and you see what goes into it, and then same thing, you kind of are working backwards, because as the engineer, like, I can go into the CBC and I can calculate, okay, people are going to have these types of shear loads, these types of drag loads, these types of whatever with buildings that we're doing based on the loading and the requirements. And so we know, like, if we're going to make a part, it needs to get this much allowable load or people can't use it, and we have to look into it to say, like, if we want them to buy it, we need it to be within this cost range, right? So we have to be able to produce it for that amount of money. So there's things the whole time that you do to tweak a part as you're developing it that don't have always to do with structural engineering, like sometimes they have to do with other aspects of business. So you get to dabble in that a little bit. And then of course, always it has to come back to, like, is it going to meet our design loads? Like, is it going to be useful for the customer? But, we have to be able to make it. We have to be able to source it. We have to be able to make it for a certain cost. It has to be what people need. There's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you did the transition from private to manufacturing. I guess what attracted you to the manufacturing side from the design side? For people that are, I think the most popular is design side, but then showing people that there's different options. And what were some of those things that drew you towards manufacturing?
In college, I think one of the reasons that I'm really passionate about kind of showing people that there are alternatives to design firms as a career is that, like, when I was in college, I thought that that's what I would end up doing, but I didn't know that I necessarily wanted to do that. There was a part of me that, for my personality, it just didn't feel like that was something I could do for a whole career. And so when Simpson Strong Tie used to come to Cal Poly, and they were really involved. I thought like I would kind of pick their brain about like, what do you do? How does it work? Like different things like that, you know? And I always thought that sounded like something that I would like to do. I'd like to go out and meet with customers. I'd like to, you know, just be out in the field more. So I think like, you know, a lot of people, there were some other people I went to school with that also got, say, like a minor in construction management. And then they went like that route because they didn't want to be in the design firm either. They would kind of go out and be like the engineer in the field.
Mhm.
So I knew I wanted to do something sort of like that. And I think that just the more and more I kind of like learned about Simpson, and then the more and more I used it as a design engineer, it was something that always sort of I was drawn to. I liked the company. I liked that there were different aspects of it. So like you could get involved in marketing, you could get involved in you know, product management. I felt like it was just, again, maybe it's because it's a big company or what, but I just felt like there were a lot of like possible paths, which I loved. And Karen Colonius was our recent our most recent CEO that just retired. And when I would hear her talk about her career path, I was just like so excited because she talked about just kind of zooming all over the place, and she started as an engineer. So I always found it really inspirational that like there were other options out there. And granted, you know, I'm 12 years in and I'm still in engineering because I haven't made that jump. But like, I thought that having the option or the opportunity was just really appealing to me.
And what were some of the career paths that you were talking about? I guess when you saw all the different career paths, you were saying, "Oh, I could do this, I could do that, I could use my skills for this." For engineers that are looking for different career path options, what were the ones that you saw?
So like since joining Simpson, I did go and I got my MBA. And so like again, like if I were to use Karen as an example, right? So she was like
Yeah.
an R&D engineer. Then I think I might be missing some steps, but she was like VP of engineering. She went over and became a branch manager, which is like, you know, she ran basically the whole facility in Stockton, which covers the whole Northwest of the US. So she did that. That was like a big jump, right? Leaving engineering. From there, she went over and I think she became the FO, I want to say, and then she became the CEO. So like, I think when I was in college, I'm not saying CEO is my goal, but like when I was in college, I never would have imagined like as an archi major graduating, like, oh, I could be the CEO of a like a huge global manufacturing company. Like that just, it didn't like dawn on me, you know? So just having that as an option, or seeing it, right? Even just seeing it, you can visualize different things for yourselves. So, yeah, I think those are some of the things, but yeah, I mean, even within Simpson now, like we do a lot of, development of our own employees. And so like we have a whole outreach, focus, you know, we all have outreach coordinators, and you know, we do a lot to reach out with students and people like that in the industry. And I'm super passionate about that. I love that. So like, who knows, maybe I'll go into outreach or, you know, product management. It's like you work really closely with the engineers, but you take the product through that whole R&D process to like get it to the finish line. Like that's super interesting to me. So no plans of changing right now, but it's always like, you know, it's a possibility. And Simpson totally encourages that, which is cool.
Yes, I think that's one thing Simpson does extremely well, the outreach, because like you saw, they're in front of structural engineering students from the time they're students, from their Simpson Strong Tie competitions in school, and then when you enter the industry, any structural engineering event, you're gonna see the reps there, and you know, with the lunch and learns and everything. So it's uh, their marketing is great because they're always like top of mind. Because anytime I go to a structural engineering event, I'll see someone familiar from Simpson Strong Tie, or see one of the reps there, and they're always there and they're always supporting. So I think the outreach is great. I think that's one of the things that makes Simpson Strong Tie comes out. That's just one of the things I've noticed. So it
Yeah.
was
Well,
like,
I'm
oh
glad
yeah,
to hear
they're
that
really
you
good.
notice it, because it is definitely something that like I pride us on. And like, I'll get a phone call from, a first or second year design engineer, and they're like, oh, I have this question. And like, I didn't know who to ask. And I just was like, oh, I'll call the Simpson person. And I'm like, yeah, call us. Like, we can totally try to help you. That's what we want to do. So I think being that little, voice in their ear, and always offering help and support, I think I think it's a benefit. So I'm a big proponent.
Yeah. And even just tell the new engineers too, they have a question about something in the catalog. Just don't ask me, just give them a call.
Totally.
If you got a unique condition, they may have some document or some article that's maybe they can use it for, or they can't use it for. So the resources are pretty cool.
Yeah.
And how was the transition like going from a design firm to a larger one? How you would say maybe the change in work culture or dynamics or projects? Because you said you were doing more customer oriented. I guess, was it more project based, or are you all over the place? Or I guess, yeah, because in design firm, it's next deadline deadline for the project. How is it like for a manufacturing firm?
So within Simpson, I would say there's like, and I can only speak really for the two roles that I've had, but I would say there's two sort of paces, right? So like and also I'll say, I should back up really quickly. Like when I say transitioning to a big firm, it's funny because Simpson is a really big company. We're publicly traded, we're international. I mean, we're a big company. Granted, it's grown a lot just in the 12 years that I've been here, but our company culture is it's so special, for starters, but we act like we're a little company. So it's kind of weird because we're not, but it's very kind of like, I think because of its roots being kind of like a mom pa, like, we started out of San Leandro and grew from there. I mean, when I was younger, when I first joined Simpson and Barkley was still alive, like, I mean, I've met him, like the owner of the company, where it's just like, it's not like, he's not some like, mystical person that started this huge company way back in the day or whatever. He's like very human, like everybody's very human. So everybody's on first name basis, and it's very like, oh, you don't know that, give this guy a call. And like, we're all very friendly. And so the culture of it is just, we act like we're a small company still, even though we're not. So the transition of like a smaller design firm to working at Simpson was actually not terribly different. There are some things that every once in a while I'm like, oh yeah, we're a big company, like and it's just like a little reminder, but in general, it doesn't feel like that, I guess I would say. But okay, so that's one thing that you asked. And then the other thing you said was, what was the other part of your question?
I think like responsibilities, how does the workflow go for design firms? It's project deadline, we got to do a submittal, but how does it for manufacturing? I'm sure is it deadlines for products or meetings, etc.?
So two different things, right? So when you're at the branches, which is like, so we have again, this is like our culture, our home office. We don't call it our corporate office, our home office. That kind of like does all of the, if you will, more corporate-y things that services all of our branches. That's how we're set up. And then our branches service the customers, right? So if you are an engineer working for a branch and you're kind of like customer facing, you are in a very fast paced environment. So people call you, they have an issue, there's projects happening out in the field. It's very fast, right? Like people need quick turnarounds. It's just very fast paced. If you are an engineer at our home office, working like more on like the R&D side of things, it's a little bit, it's more like it's a longer term project, right? So like if you're in the R&D design for this certain product, it could take a year or two to get to the finish line. So it tends to have like a different pace because there's just so many other like little details involved. So it really depends on the role that you're in. It can vary.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of roles. Yeah, I think that was pretty cool. Did you have anything that you wanted to, I guess, final advice for structural engineers that are maybe considering that career path option? Any advice from your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like if you as like a younger engineer or, a college student, something like that, if you're interested, I mean, I can't speak for every manufacturing firm, obviously, but Simpson is like, it's such a great resource for you to kind of investigate if this is something that you're interested in, right? Like we always have interns, we have scholarship. I mean, another cool thing that we do is we have scholarships that we give out, right? And the winners are offered a trip to the Bay Area. We bring them to the Bay Area for a week. It's super fun. And we show them all about our company, like take them around, do a little sightseeing and fun stuff also. But just there's so many opportunities. There's so many opportunities to pick our brains. And I mean, I've never met somebody at Simpson that wouldn't be more than happy to talk about it or answer questions or, again, I think you know this, Matt, too, but like, I mean, we offer people to come into our facilities to tour them. I mean, we're very, we want to show off what we have, if you will, so I would say if you're interested, reach out to me. I'm happy to answer questions. And I know anybody else at Simpson would be too, but it is different and everybody's different too. So some people, it's a great match. I imagine there's lots of other people that would not like it.
Yeah.
So it just depends.
Yeah, I might take you up on that offer. I'm always interested to see like facilities and the testing and how
Absolutely.
things get made. So that'd be cool.
Yeah, it's like your
Talk to
own
you about that
episode
later.
of how was this made or whatever, like
Yeah,
that guy that goes into all the facilities. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah. Well, again, totally hit me up. We can make something happen.
Awesome.
Do you have any other questions or can we switch gears and I'm going to pick your brain now? Okay.
Yeah, let's switch over to my side. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So I want to know like, because I didn't stay in the design world for as long as you've obviously been in it now, right? So in the private structural engineering design industry, what would you say are some key considerations that like if you're looking to advance in your career and things like that, like what would be key considerations if you're at a structural engineering firm?
Yeah. So I've been in with the engineering firms for a while, and I decided to stay in the private
How many
design
years
industry.
are you now? Sorry, Matt.
I'm about 8 years in.
Okay.
8 years in for private design firm designing buildings. So that's
and
the industry I'm in.
Same company the whole time?
Yes, I've had different internships though before. So my experience was my different internship experiences, and this kind of helped me make the decision. I've worked for the city as an intern. I've worked for a smaller design firm offices. And for me, that's one of the things that made me want to go into private design. It's because I really like the responsibility of it. You get to learn a lot. You get to learn from beginning to end how a project works, and you get a role in that whole process. So that's one of the things that I still love about the private design industry is there's a lot of responsibility, but there's a lot of reward to it as well. And I think as a newer engineer, one of the things that could help you advance your career is it's really learning about the codes and getting technically. I think the first 5 years, even, I would say getting technically really good is really important, because I think as you're progressing throughout your career, I think in any career is how can you help your manager, or how can you help your firm in general? So how can you help your manager? Hey, it's doing those calcs really well, doing them more efficiently, making sure they're accurate. So I think getting into the codes and being an engineer, get into the technical things, know how to design things and get better at it, and making sure that they're accurate. So gain the trust of your managers on knowing how to design things and knowing when to ask questions when you don't know they're right. So I think that's one of the things.
Did you feel like the first 5 years you were just like, I'm going to get a sound technical base knowledge to just like that was your main focus?
Yeah, I'd say first 3 years for sure, technical focus. And then I started to get into more of the management side a couple years in after I got my PE. And
So what does that look
then
like? Tell me more about that.
uh,
Like, is it within your firm? Is it sort of like once you get your PE, they'll kind of start to transition you into like more of like a lead, or how does that work?
yeah, so for my firm, it's what the employees want. I think if you're for me, I made it clear to my managers like, hey, I want to get into a management role. Could you start me off on? I want to get some experience. Could you start me off on maybe a really small project? Let me manage that, and
Mm.
then that's for me. That's how I built up my skills, and that's how we try to do it, right? In terms of baby steps. So you want to be a manager? Okay, let's start you off with this and build the skills from there. And then, yeah, that's how I eventually became a project manager. And and
And
then,
when you're a
yeah,
project manager at your firm, you're managing the project, but are you also managing then like other engineers that are working on that project with you?
yes. So for me, we're fairly big company. I think 300 plus employees across the country. But the office I'm in, we're pretty small. I think we only have about like 10 to 10 to 12 people. So for us, we do have engineers that help us out, project engineers. So yeah, it is managing the project, but also managing the engineering team. But my engineering team isn't huge. I don't have like 10 people. So it's one or two engineers per project. So it's managing. It's still something, but
Yeah, yeah,
it's not a huge
absolutely.
team.
Yeah. Well, it also like, I mean, the more people you manage, the less engineering you get to do, right? So if you want to be involved
Yes.
in both, you can't have a huge team. Like if you want to still have some of that technical responsibility, you know?
Yep.
Um, what about, okay, so you were a few years in, got your PE, you know, discuss that with your manager in terms of like where you wanted to go with your career. And obviously they worked with you on that, but now like um sorry, I'm having trouble phrasing my question, but like so now that you're in that role, are you now reciprocating that? Like, do you have engineers that are working for you that are going to pass their PE and saying, hey, Matt, like, I also want to be in a management role? Like, how does that work?
Oh yeah, I think that's a big part of that back and forth relationship with project engineer to manager, because it is something that we discuss because we want to help you get you there. So for me, I've had that happen where engineers want to transition into management, and I kind of have a mentorship session with them, and okay, here's how I did it, and here's if you want to get that role, here are the things that you should do. And one of the things I tell them is, yeah, start off with a small project, speak with your manager if they can give you a smaller project to start off on and help you succeed in that. And then we go over the roles and responsibilities. Okay, what skills are you lacking? Maybe you can communicate communication with clients. I think a lot of the things are the soft skills too. Can you communicate with clients clearly? And do you know what they want, how to treat them, and how to treat everybody on the team to help them succeed? Maybe your email communication needs more improvement, verbal communication, maybe some public communication classes so you can speak confidently in front of the client and whatnot, because those are the skills that you need as a manager that you may not have it straight out of the gate out of engineering school. So we
Yeah.
work on a lot of the skills, things like that. And I think that's one of the things that we need to communicate though, is you want to be a manager, here's what you need to do. Let's help get you there. What skills do you need? But also, if some engineers don't want to pursue that route, okay, how else can we um, do to help you grow with the company? Maybe if you really love calcs, hey, here are some things that we can have you look into. Maybe better spreadsheets, better testing out new programs, having more efficient systems that we could use to help us out as a firm. So I think it's that back and forth communication definitely helps because not everybody wants the same thing. Not
Right.
everybody wants to be the CEO, right? So
Right.
if that's not the case, how do we fit you into the company so we can all help the team in, the overall mission of the company?
Right. It's interesting that you say that, because I know we're like in kind of like different worlds of the engineering, realm, but it's funny because I think so many of those things that you mentioned in terms of like growth and things like that, it's all the same things that like at Simpson, we're all asking those same questions too. Like if you find somebody that's good, you want to know where their interests lie and you want to keep them, moving forward in
And I
their
think that's
direction.
interesting. Yeah, I think similar to what, because Simpson has so many positions too, and I think as a structural engineering industry, I think it's pretty typical when you go to different types of firms in the private design industry. I think they kind of have the same process and positions, but I do think there is room for making more positions or doing some more positions, because not everybody wants to be the CEO or whatnot. Maybe there's different types of roles that they could do that may not exist. Maybe that position doesn't exist, right? So
Totally.
maybe someone doesn't want to be the design person. Maybe they could make a new role, such as, I don't know, a QC person or someone that's a trainer or something like that. I think
I
there's
feel
room.
like I hear that so often from so many different engineers that I talk to. Design for manufacturing. I mean, all the different, even people that we've had on the show that are in different areas of engineering also. I think, knowing what is needed, knowing where your interests lie, and it's almost like you have to go and create that position, job craft or what, all the different words that they have out there. But I think that's totally true. Again, like any industry, we're progressing and we can't just stay stuck with the same roles and positions that we've had for the last 50 years. Like things are changing, and we have to kind of change with them. So and in a way, it opens up a lot more opportunities for people, which is exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So another thing that I wanted to ask you was so you talked a lot about, the career growth and past and how you can help each other, but like within your company, are there specific strategies that they use? Or is it like when you say like, let's get you some help on this soft skill, is there like internal training for you guys? Or is it like, external training, or like, how do you guys sort of approach all of that?
Yeah, we try to do internal training. And for us, we have processes that we try to, I think that's one of the things that we're working on, is getting better training, getting internal training. We have it, but I think we can always do better in terms of training. And that's what we're doing a trial and error on, is, okay, let's try this out. Do these trainings work? Or maybe we need to focus on another skill. So I say that's a bigger company-wide thing.
Yeah.
Where we're trying to help all the offices to get better training. And that's one component of it. But then there's also, if we get into like the micro, let's just say in SoCal offices or in my office, I think a big part of it comes into your relationship with your manager and your project engineer. Because when I sit down with somebody, I think it's like a customized for that person and their personality and their skills. Okay, based on your personality and your skills, how do we get you to where you want to be? And as you can see, that's tough on just a big corporate level. Take a project management class, you're good. I think that helps, but when it really gets helpful is when you sit down one-on-one with that person and that relationship, the pros and cons or the strengths and weaknesses of that person. How do we tailor your skills to where you want to go? I think that's the most helpful thing. And that's not an official process. I think that's hard to do, but I think comes down to your relationship with your manager and how they want to crafting a plan together on how to get you there.
I want to backtrack for a second and ask one other question from that I meant to ask earlier, but you were talking about how you sort of got into that management role and started with a small project after you got your PE. Did anything change again after you got your SE?
Change in terms of promotions or
Or is that when they like give you more complicated projects, or like is there like some sort of a adjustment at that point, like how you get your PE and you were able to take on a small project as managing that, and then like you get your
Mhm.
SE, like all of a sudden do they hand you a hospital project? Like
Now,
how does that happen?
I think for that one, yeah, it didn't really change in terms of the projects I was getting. I
Okay.
think getting my SE, I think it's more of a long-term thing in terms of you're more marketable to your company, probably in promotions or whatnot. So that's one thing. And I think long-term as well, if you wanted to switch industries, that SE will help you get into almost any company. So I think
Hands
that's
down.
a huge thing personally for your professional career growth. But yeah, I didn't really see anything in terms of you can't work on this project because you don't have your SE. So in terms
Okay.
of that, it may be different with other companies, but for us, it was kind of just didn't really matter because they trusted you already with your technical skills. But
Okay.
I would say it made me a better manager because I can help the new engineers better because
Okay.
I'm a lot more technically competent and know where all the resources are, where they are in the code. So it's a lot easier for me to be a manager because I can help out the team more in terms of the technical resources. So that's been a big plus.
Awesome. Yeah.
This episode of the Structural Engineering Channel is brought to you by PPI, a leader in engineering exam prep for the PE structural exam. PPI provides expert prep courses and study resources designed to help you pass the PE structural exam the first time. PPI's PE structural course is fully updated and taught with October 2021 code references and includes new editions of their PE structural books. PPI's live online courses include hours of lectures, problem-solving demonstrations, exam strategy sessions, office hours, and a passing guarantee. When you take a live online course, PPI guarantees you will pass, or you can take the on-demand course for free. PPI has helped engineers achieve their licensing goals since 1975. Check out PPI today at PPI2pass.com to see all of the resources available for PE structural exam prep. Again, that's PPI2pass.com.
What about can you share like some more specific examples, if you will? Because I know we've been talking a lot of like general sort of broad stuff, but can you share some examples of how your company prepares individuals for the next step? Like is there anything like specific that they do?
Yeah, so specific in terms of my experience, I'll go over how I prepared someone to be a manager. So we
Okay.
had and this isn't a company-wide thing, but I think it's, like I said, it's the relationship with your manager and how they want to help you. So for me, I sat down and we went over their goals, and yeah, we came up with a game plan. You want to be a manager. Let's see how you do with this project. So I worked with our principals to get them a smaller project, and I'd be there to help them out. It's not what do you call it? It's not hey, here's a project. Let's see if you can do good on it by yourself,
Like sink or
It's
swim.
like sink or swim. It's like I don't like that. I hate the sink and swim concept. I don't think it's good for the industry. So for me, it was like, hey, here's a new project. I'm gonna let you take the reins, and you answer all the emails, but come to me if you have any questions. You want me to look over your email that you're sending out? If it's worded correctly, I'm there to help. You have a client interaction that didn't go too well, I can hop on the call and help out as well. And so for me, it's not coming up with a game plan on here's a specific project, but hey, I'm there to help you succeed. It's because we don't want to put you in a position where you're set up to fail. I think that's one of the worst things that you could do. So it's okay, yeah, here's the things that I do. If you need me to step in and help out, I'm there, and I'm there to coach, basically coach. How are you responding to emails? How are you responding to clients? Even the financial aspects of things, charging additional services. Yeah, one of those things is like those soft skills. Like, hey, you're going to charge someone money, and what if they don't take it well? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
here's how you explain it better. Explain to the client why we're doing an additional service X, Y, Z. So it's not as nickel and diming, I guess, or they get offended. So it's a lot of those soft skills that you could do. And then, yeah, performance review. So then they go to their principal and then showing them how to market themselves. It's like, your principals don't know what you're doing, because I think this can kind of go in every direction. Every industry is like, you need to learn how to market yourself to your principals, your managers, because they all have their own lives. They're not scrutinizing you on what you're doing every day. It's no, when you go to those reviews or whatnot, you got to learn how to market yourself. You've been going to, let's say, you've been volunteering in the ACE program or some type of volunteer work. Hey, put that on your review letter or whatnot, and all of even the emails and interactions that you have with clients. You did a really good job on one particular part of the project. The client was enthusiastic, and they sent you like a really cool thank you email. Put that in your review. Or if you wanted to say, if you were taking public speaking classes, put that in your review. Like show them what you're doing, because you want to get to that next position, and put numbers to it too. If your project was profitable, do it. If you made a training program for the company and that people were using it, put some numbers to that. You saved X amount of hours of training because you made this video or whatnot. And so
That's
I think
such great advice.
learning how to market yourself.
Yeah. I feel like most engineers that I know, it's not their natural instinct to do that. And so like, I think that is like, I mean, myself included, like all those tips that you just had right there. I'm like, oh yeah, I should do that. Yeah, I should do that. Like, I don't do any of that. So that's really good advice. And that's, so as a manager, then will you remind your team to do that for you? Because obviously you can't keep track of everything. I mean, I understand that.
Oh yeah. It's
Okay.
like, what is it? It's, I know when people are going for promotions and whatnot, it's, hey, here's a proposal that we got that it's your client, put it on there. It's like, hey, this client liked working with you, and they gave us another offer or another proposal to bid on. That's you. You kept that relationship up. You just made the company $20,000 because they liked working with you. Put that in your next review letter. You made the company $20,000.
Yeah, mention that. Very cool.
Because it's like the weakest one is like, hey, I've been with this company for X amount of years. Give me a raise. It's like, yeah, but what value are you really bringing? Oh, you went and one of the quickest things that I tell new employees, if you want to get to that next position, look at that job description of that next position. All those responsibilities, if you're already doing those and you're doing those well, that's the easiest way to get promoted is just do all those things already. And that's how you get promoted. Do them and do them well, and talk to your manager on how to hire you for those. So yep, I guess more of the marketing stuff that's, and like you said, it's not natural. It's like, when I talk to them, it's kind of like, well, shouldn't they already know I'm doing, I'm working late and I'm taking these classes and I'm doing this for the clients? Like, no, nobody knows. Even I don't know that you were doing that stuff. So how do you expect them to know? So you got to bring it up and market yourself. Yeah,
it's like a little reminder that, I mean, everybody is kind of consumed with what they are doing, like they themselves are doing, right? So you just, you can like kind of wrongly assume that your manager knows everything that you're doing, but that's not the case. And even if they do in the moment, I mean, they're not keeping track of it when it comes to that, like, conversation or whatever, so it's better if you're just responsible for yourself, bring it forward, present all the good things. That's great advice. What about, how does a private structural engineering design firm, like in your opinion, differ in terms of career growth opportunities compared to other sectors? Like what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the private design firm industry, I think you'll learn a lot because you're probably going to be in a small to medium-sized firm where you're going to be doing all the work, maybe from the beginning, from conceptual design to design development, to construction documents, to permitting, all the way to construction support. So I think it's great for seeing how the industry works, how buildings get built, how they get designed. And it's fast paced. There's lots of deadlines, and that's probably one of the things that I compare it similar to school, where yeah, you can have some weeks that are design, but then when those finals come up, that's when you start cramming. And it's kind of same thing with project deadlines. You got a deadline, you got to do it until it's done. So that's I'd say one of the things to be aware of. It could get sporadic where it's okay, but then deadlines, which I think students are used to during finals, so it has similar pacing to that. And I think like you said, there's lots of different sectors and different industries, and I can't really comment about them personally, but yeah, from talking to different people in the industries, I think that's one of the biggest differences is that really fast-paced deadline projects. So I think that's one of the things that separates it, but you do learn a lot. I mean, that's one of the things that I love about it. I always get new projects that I'm interested in, that they're interesting. And yeah, that's one of the things I love about the private industry is that there's still new projects. Every project is different. And I love seeing the work that I do from, paper sample calcs to seeing it get built. And until I get tired of that, I still plan to be here.
Perfect. What about, do you think there's any like unique challenges or maybe like, I know earlier you asked me pros and cons, but like in terms of like what you would say professionals need to be aware of if they were seeking a job or even like an advancement at a design firm?
Yeah, so seeking advancement in a design firm, I'd say definitely, because design firms are the same, but they're different. I'd say the best advice that's kind of broad is knowing how you can help your managers. So in my career path, it was, how do I help my manager? So for me, it was learning how to work with spreadsheets, how to model things in, ETABS, RISA, design software, getting really good at that. So that way, whenever they had something that was like, oh, they're working on managing their projects, how do I help them out? I'll help them out with the design work. I'll be really good at that. And so they can build that trust with them. And then when you have that trust where they can just be, hey, Matt, just take this on and I'll review your work. I trust you to design this, and I trust your judgment, and I trust you to come with me with questions. That way they can focus on their management work, attending design meetings. So the better I am at that, the better I can help them out. And then you get promoted. And then now it's the next level. For me right now, I'm a project manager. How can I help my associate principals? So seeing what their problems are and how can I help them? Okay, I'll take on this new project and I'll manage it. I'll bring you in when I have questions, but for the most part, they can get a project and just give it to me. I'll run the show. They can focus on principal stuff, business development stuff, principal stuff. oh, I'll work on the project management, and
Yeah.
because that helps them. And then, but also working in helping them out, but also seeing what their duties are. Because as principals, they have their own duties, right? Or managers, we have our own duties. So it's helping them out, but also getting some of their responsibilities too, because they're responsible for, let's say, business development. What can I do to help with that? So not only are you helping them out, but to help prepare yourself for that next step,
I was
seeing
just
what
going to
their
say,
responsibilities are.
it's like if you're doing what's on that job description and doing it well, then it'll be easy for you when you go for that next step.
Yeah. So it's getting that trust, and then also seeing what that next level that you want to go to, whatever that next position is, build the skills for that. So yeah, I know in project management, public speaking I wasn't comfortable speaking in front of clients. So I worked on that. And then once I demonstrated that I could do those types of skills, then yeah, you're already doing it. So what's the problem?
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you. That was like super informative. I mean, it's been a hot minute since I've been in a design firm. So good recap on what it's like. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Rachel, as well. I think yeah, there's lots of career paths in structural engineering. I think manufacturing is one of them. So
sky's the limit.
Thanks. This was great. Yep.
All right. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Structural Engineering Channel. We hope you found our discussion on the different career paths within the field of structural engineering insightful. Whether you're considering opportunities in the manufacturing sector or aiming to grow within a design firm, understanding the pros and cons, growth aspects, unique opportunities each path offers is crucial. We appreciate you joining us today. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast for more episodes dedicated to keeping you up to date on technical trends in the field and helping you succeed in your career and life as a structural engineering professional.